Welcome to a new edition of the Neon Jazz Interview Series with Jazz Multi-Instrumentalist Dave Bennett. He talked to us about his newest 2017 CD, Blood Moon. He grew up in Waterford, Michigan, and is entirely self-taught. In fact, he began at the age of 10 on the clarinet, listening to and quickly playing along with Benny Goodman records. To date, he can play the electric guitar, piano, drums, and even vocalizes. At 12, he was invited by the legendary jazz trumpeter Doc Cheatham to the bandstand at New York's famous Sweet Basil Jazz. Since then, he has played Carnegie Hall and been all over the world. So please get to know him and dig this interview, my friends.
Dave, it's an honor and pleasure to speak with you. Thank you for taking some time out today. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and dive right in here. I've always really enjoyed your work. You've been a regular on the program, and I want to know about this latest album, Blood Moon. Talk to me about the creative forces that went into this release.
Back in 2015, we were trying to brainstorm what the record would be or what we'd do. We were trying to think of whether it was maybe do a gospel album or kind of a pop-sounding record, and we were kind of banging our heads against the wall. And I was talking to Denny Stilwell, the president of Mac Avenue, and he said, you know, Dave, he says, if you're going to carry this instrument into the 21st century, I really think you should do your own stuff. And it was like that little light bulb went off. It's like, of course, that's what I should be doing. So my arranger and co-writer, Shelley Berger from Toronto, we got together and we started writing. And we spent, I'd say, about 4 months, maybe with about 4 visits, writing as hard as we could and coming up with as many ideas as we could. And there you have it. You know, that covered the original songs that we did on the record. And then the covers that we threw on there are just our songs that I've been playing in my live show for the past couple of years that seem to get a good response. So it was a very exciting thing to do, and really nice to finally start to find my own voice as a musician and writer too.
Wonderful. Let me ask you this about album releases for you. Each successive release, do you see it as an evolution? Do you see it as a voice in time for you? What is your philosophy on growing as an artist with each successive album you put out?
Well, I think it's an evolution in several respects. I'm hoping and praying that I'm somehow improving somewhat with each release. But I think in this case, since the songs are originals and they come from my own my heart, I think stylistically there's always music that feels right and styles that feel right, and so finally, I think most of my life I was always playing music of my heroes, and I would maybe, you know, for instance, Benny Goodman type thing or Pete Fountain, but over time I would take those songs and rearrange them and reharmonize them because I heard them a certain way, and so that's part of the evolutionary process, I think, of that. But then once I got to this, I was starting essentially with a blank canvas, and it was fun to draw on musical influences such as, you know, Phil Collins, Peter Gabriel, and those things that really touched me. So, yeah, I'd say just, you know, artistically, maybe musicianship-wise, I hopefully would improve a little bit with each release.
So let me ask you this. How does a kid from Waterford, Michigan grow up to become a veteran of the jazz world? What happened in your childhood that swayed you to get to this point?
Oh, geez, I don't know. I'd say mainly the grace of God. I've been very blessed and very thankful for it. But, you know, when I started playing when I was 10 years old, I basically just knew something in my heart that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life as soon as I picked up the horn. And I think that, you know, there's this little motor inside of each of us that drives us to what we're called to do. I mean, anybody who's on the planet has a gift in some area, you know, that they may excel in. And once you find what that gift is, then you work as hard as you can to try to develop it and master it. So there's always been that passion inside me to just keep going, and I've always had dreams as big as as far as the sky, and try to believe for the impossible. But like I say, I can't take any credit for that. You know, like I say, God's been good to me, and I do my best to work hard at the craft. But the opportunities and things that have been given me, have just been blessings. I'm very thankful for that. So I try to handle it as wisely as I can, and it's been a good run.
Well, you know, a lot of what I read about you, a lot of things happen in your youth, like you're an old soul. At 12, you were invited to the bandstand at Sweet Basil by Doc, and I want to know what that was like. How big of a moment was that for you?
Oh, it was huge. In fact, I think back on it now, and I'm surprised that I did it, because I think as you get older, you realize what legends these people are that you would approach. And I mean, now my frame of mind is I don't really ever want to be a bother to anybody. You know, for instance, if I go to hear somebody play, I wouldn't ask them if I could sit in. I'd wait until I was approached. But at that time, I knew of Doc because I'd seen him on a Benny Goodman documentary, and I knew that he played with Benny. But I was 12 years old. I didn't know any different. So my family and I, we were on vacation visiting relatives in New York. We knew that Doc was playing, so I took my horn, and he was sitting there at the bar. I walked right up to him, and I said, "Hi, Mr. Cheatham. My name's Dave Bennett. I live in Michigan, and I play clarinet, and I was wondering, could I sit in with you?" And I think back on it now, I thought, what in the world was I thinking? But he was very gracious, and of course, I was very thankful for the whole thing, but I was just excited because I thought, wow, this guy is a legend, and he played with my hero. And then he invited me up, and we played Sweet Georgia Brown, and the whole place went nuts. And I mean, to this day, I personally mark that up to the Carnegie Hall experience that I played a few years ago. That it was just a real amazing moment in time that I really take with me.
You know, and at 14, you were already out playing regularly, so obviously jazz has been in your blood for a long time. How has that benefited you now at this stage in your life to have started so early? Did you get kind of a kickstart? Did you acquire some early wisdom that helped your longevity? How do you view that now in the rearview mirror?
When I went on the road, I started professionally when I was 13, then I started touring when I was 14, and the musicians that I was with were quite a bit older than me, so I had their wisdom to draw on. I guess it did shape me. I mean, for one thing, I learned how to perform on the bandstand. You know, I never went to college for, there's a lot of music schools now that they teach you how to do that. And I never had that experience. I just kind of learned as I went. So I learned how to read an audience. I learned how to interact with the band members. I learned how to treat people properly and always be gracious and not be difficult. Yeah, it was, I think the things that I picked up along the way you can't really be taught in school, but it's a lesson not only as a musician how to perform, but how to interact with people, whether they're the people that hire you or the people that come to hear you play. I think one thing I've taken away is anybody who comes out to hear you play, and you always take time to talk with them after the show, and because they may only get to see you one time. That may be their one experience with you, and you always want to make it a good memory for them. But yeah, there's just countless things that I've learned along the way in that respect, and I'm very grateful for that.
The one thing about your life too is that you're self-taught and you're very proficient on the clarinet, electric piano, drums. You vocalize. What is it about you that has made you so curious to want to branch out to be a multi-instrumentalist?
It was mainly that I heard different styles of music, and the artists within those styles of music grabbed me in a very deep place. When I heard Jerry Lee Lewis and saw him perform on TV, I thought, wow, that's just incredible, and I wanted to be able to do something approaching that. Those guys are the masters, but it's so strong, and it touched me in such a way that I thought, I'd like to do that too. And then I heard Elvis and Roy Orbison and then Brian Setzer on guitar and these things that obviously those guys are the masters, but you think, boy, wouldn't that be amazing to do something like that? And I love those styles of music, and so I wanted to go after it. And unfortunately, I've been able to add all those different elements to the shows that I play. And so when the people come out and hear us, they don't necessarily hear one style. So we'll throw in a little bit of everything. So it's fun, and I never get bored that way. There's always something to challenge me, and just for pure enjoyment. It's a real great thing to do.
And you're pretty prolific with the amount of stages you've been on and where you've been around not only this country but around the world. Is it always still a thrill up to this point to perform live? I mean, you've been doing it since you've been 14. Does it always give you that thrill? You always ready to hop on the stage and go?
Oh, yeah. Totally. I think I'm probably having more fun now than I ever have. And maybe that just becomes, it sounds crazy, but I think as time goes on, you gain a little more confidence in just who you are and what you can do. And so now I go out on stage, I think maybe a little bit more in the sense that I've always been grateful for doing what I do, but I really savor each performance. And I think I can go out there now and just relax and say, okay, here we go. And yeah, I think I get more of an excitement and more of a thrill now than I ever have. But I've always felt that way, so it's just that much more amped up. It's the fulfillment and joy of it has never gone away. It's only increased.
So how do you feel about your career? You've been around for a long, long time now, and you've done so much. Do you feel good about how everything's panned out up to this point?
Yeah, it was funny. I was just talking about this the other day. In the early days, there was kind of almost a gimmick to what I was doing. I was a young guy who maybe performed a little bit better than average, and that was kind of the gimmick of it all. And I always wondered, when I got to be in my 30s or possibly 40s, would I still be able to draw an audience? And thankfully, it's worked that way. And since I've been now doing my own music and finding stylistically what's me, uniquely mine, everything seems to be going in just the right direction. The record company just let me know that Blood Moon has gone to 24 on the traditional jazz charts on Billboard, and I mean, I've never had that happen. So I'm still dreaming. I still got huge goals that may seem crazy, but every one of my dreams has come true so far in my life. So I got to keep that list going, and things are really moving in the direction that I want. And so it's really living by faith, and I couldn't be more happy.
Wonderful. Let me ask you this: why do you love jazz?
I guess it just hits me in the heart. I mean, well, there's so many different types of jazz, and I think that there are certain types of jazz that move me more than others. I think especially the swing and Dixieland and some of the jazz that's a little more pop oriented. There's just so many musical ingredients that you can learn from as a player. You can harmonically, there's so many different ways you can go. There's a lot of freedom in it, so you don't have to play something the same way twice. That's a good question. Some things just appeal to your taste, and you can't really explain why.
I dig it.
Yeah.
That's a good answer. So let me get to the essence of you. Everyone has a perception of you, your family, your friends, your fans, but you're guiding this festival. When you wake up and face the day, who do you think you are?
My answer to that might be a little bit more unsure. I think I'm just trying the best I can. I don't think I'm the most confident person in the world deep down. I'm always wondering, I always tend to think with each project or each show that I play, if anybody's going to show up, or if this is the one that doesn't go well. And so that tends to keep me working that much harder. I'm always a little bit surprised when things are as successful as they are. So I don't know. I've always had this hard thing of balancing humility and lack of self-confidence. So it's I always kind of dance that fine line. But there's some days I get up and I'm ready to attack. I'm ready to. I get the horn out or whatever instrument I'm practicing on and really going to it full throttle. But then there's days like today where I got the horn out and I just nothing is coming to my mind. So it's just it's kind of a roller coaster, and it's an up and down thing. But it's just like life, you have good days and bad, and if you're having a day that you're not feeling quite there, you just have to fight that much harder to get where you want to be. So yeah, I guess you could just say that I'm a guy that just works his tail off and gives everything that he has, and I try as hard as I can, and you kind of let the chips fall where they may.
I think it shows, Dave. I thank you for you taking time out today to talk about Blood Moon, your life and music, and I want to thank you for your music. I've always enjoyed it, and I appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much. I appreciate you calling me up.
Thanks for listening and tuning in to yet another Neon Jazz interview, where we give you a bit of insight into the finest players in New York, Kansas City, and spots all over the world, giving fans all that jazz. And thanks to Dave for his time, his cool, and his music. If you want to hear more interviews, go to Famous Interviews with Joe Domino on the iTunes Store. Visit neonjazz@youtube.com, and for everything Neon Jazz, go to the neonjazz.blogspot.com. Until next time, enjoy the jazz, my friends.
Neon Jazz.